I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. I do not believe we have any public comments today. So we'll move right into the agenda. Buildings and grounds, I think Mrs. James is going to give us update on the summer projects. Go ahead.
Good evening. Good evening. So I just wanted to give you yet another update on some of the summer projects that we're working on. First, we had the paving and concrete project. All of the parking lot areas have been completed. We have done a checklist. Those checklist items have been completed. And there's just a few things for as part of that project for the fueling station that we're waiting on being completed, but the concrete area is completed, and the fence, they're working on the fence that's going to go around the fueling station. Next. So here's just a picture of the paving that's been done. I'm sure that many of you have seen and how nice it looks. Painting is done, lines are done, and wow, what a difference. Mrs. Eshelman, I'm sure you like the drive into East Peter or to Centerville.
Yeah.
So all of that has been completed now. Next slide. We are continuing to work on the fueling station. As of right now, the pad has been completed. The wiring is done for the pumps. All of that has passed inspection. So, and then we're just waiting for the pumps to come in. All of the bollards are around the area where the pumps are going to go. Fencing is going to be installed momentarily. And we're being told that the pumps should be arriving mid-September, and then they'll be installing that after arrival. It should take about 2 weeks for that installation, I'm being told. But of course, those dates can always change. Next slide. Just a picture of the fueling station. You can see what it looks like right now. There is the concrete pad will be where the fuel pumps are placed, and then there's a concrete pad in front of there now, so that we don't have as much issue with trenching going on as far as the heavy trucks driving on the front of it. Next slide. And the roof restoration. So all of the complete tear-offs that needed to happen on both buildings have been completed. They have done all the necessary work on the roof drains. The masonry work that was needed is probably about 3/4 of the way done. And we are expecting that to be done within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And the roof coatings have started on both of the roofs. They're on schedule. Although, as you recall, this is going to be probably a little bit into October until everything is completed, maybe mid-October. Okay. And just some pictures here of what that looks like on the roof. Believe it or not, they're having some issues with the lack of heat now. I know we were complaining about too much heat. Now there's the lack of heat. So they actually had to take these heating blankets up onto the roof to heat the containers of coating that they put out. So I know, crazy. Okay. And this is just a look at some of the masonry work that's being done. All of the metal roofs at the entrances for both buildings are being repainted. The one there above the Landisville Primary Center sign has been repainted and everything. So those have been also worked on and recoated.
Kim, refresh our memory. How long is this supposed to extend the roof life to?
There's a 25-year warranty.
Okay. And what was the total cost?
I do not have that at my fingertips, but we did have the 1.5 million grant.
So a lot of it was paid by grants. Okay. Any other questions from Ms. James? All right, thank you. Next on the agenda
KCBA, update on the high school project. Go ahead.
Thank you. Evening, everyone. We're excited to provide another update on the ongoing fun, which is the high school project. There's a lot going on, not only in the project, but the campus as well. So we wanted to kind of share all of those upgrades with you this evening. This is a look at the front of the school. Again, we're looking at replacing Franklin and building this essentially in its place. So this is a view from where the new entrance to the school would be. You can see, remember the existing building here, Franklin kind of in the upper part, building a new addition in to the south along Kaufman Road. Just like that Franklin comes down, and the new student parking and staff and visitor parking lots are created just off of Bank Street there. So the project is, like I said, moving forward. The addition is seen here in a variety of colors and Buchanan on the left. So you can kind of see how a lot of the areas are being zoned for different types of educational use. Buchanan, the great part about Buchanan, there's a lot of classrooms, there's a lot of science classrooms. So a lot of the repetitious things are all there. Of course, the pack is tremendous, and that's obviously staying. So utilizing or creating the newer music spaces with the performing arts spaces allows us to have that lighter blue area in the lower left. You have a great gym in the middle there for physical education. So the new gym right next to it. So instead of having music on the other side of the building from the pack, they're together. Instead of having a second gym on the other side of the building from your other gym, they're together. So even though we're building, kind of 60% of a new school, the 40% that we're connecting to has a lot of great opportunities to make this kind of some perfect adjacencies. So this is a view of the first floor. You can see the cafeteria in the lower right. And then as we move up through the school, we have a couple of areas of core academics, visual arts, again, some of the core academies or core academics on the left. You start to see a lot of science on the second floor of Buchanan, then linking into some new science that's being created as part of the new building. So up on the third floor, a lot of core academics. We have a continuous corridor that brings you into the new building, around our new core academics, around our new science, and linking that up all on one floor, all seamless, no more ramps, no up to go down. So the space and all of these corridors, again, as you can see, it's a big building, but a lot of them are straight and teed off at 90-degree intersections. So that helps primarily for security and just observation of students moving in and out.
So, Mr. Kelly, backing up there. For the core academics surrounding the courtyard, am I to infer from this that it's going to be like glass and that those rooms will overlook the courtyard then?
Yes, so the courtyard space is an exterior courtyard.
Right, that's what I thought.
So you see that on all three floors. This space is exterior, just like the existing one up by Family Consumer Science, and the Buchanan wing is exterior. So a lot of times, we're seeing a lot of use for those spaces. Certainly the existing one as well. We want to populate that so that it starts to get used. But the primary function of those spaces is to provide natural light into all of those spaces that are around that space. Otherwise, you'd have additional wings that are shooting off and making the building much longer. So all of those Family Consumer Science on the first floor, the cafeteria right here, and again, it's kind of as we saw in Avon Grove, those students can leave the cafeteria, walk across the hall, and they're outside into an exterior courtyard. So that relationship is very similar to what you visited there. And then as we move our way upstairs, second floor visual arts and more core academics. So again, core academics is music, history, foreign language, social studies. And up on the third floor, we kind of round out those spaces as well. So a lot of our specialty spaces are on the ground floor, some that need to be 2 stories. And then a lot of the core spaces are general education classrooms up on the fifth.
So what are the main changes between this concept and the last one that you showed?
So since July, many things that are subtle enough that we can get into, but the good news of that is that it wasn't major overhauls of a lot of spaces. As we've been doing with a team from Fidavia, every time that we're looking at academic improvements, we're also looking at value engineering. What are ways that we can make the building more efficient? We had cores of the building off to the side that we're starting to shoot some more wings off to the side. We said, let's pull those things in a little bit, create some spaces that allow us to kind of round out the building in a more efficient way. Things that stack are better than things that are just kind of wings that shoot off to the side. So we added some classrooms along here, but we deleted some of the classrooms that were kind of hanging out on the third floor on the roof there, maintaining the amount of individual instruction spaces that Bill and his team feel that they need for the enrollment that's coming in 2028.
So how much did we reduce square footage from the deluxe version to now?
Depends on your timeline. So when we first.
Well, the highest cost one to now.
So when we first introduced the project, we were considering about a 300,000 square foot of new construction. In July, we were at about 280, 281. And now, so the balloon was full, then we kind of brought it down, and now we're getting it back to what we think is the manageable number. And now we're at 286. So we're still under that 300 that we were originally. Some of what we found there, again, some efficiencies of spaces. There were some rooms in the Buchanan wing that we were expanding, and by expanding them, we were taking 3 classrooms and making them 2. There was some cost there. We said, you know what, we don't know that we need to necessarily do that. We have a lot of other classrooms that are larger, 850 square feet, that could be 4 class sizes that are larger, 25, 28, 30 kids in a class. Put those in the newer, bigger rooms. So there was some less new building that we needed to build. There were a couple of areas in Buchanan that we chose to add additional funds to, like bathrooms, science wings, science labs, and things like that. We have a slide coming up talking about those. So we added some more money into Buchanan. And when we did that, we took the building down a shade. So going from 300,000 to 286, we think right-sized the new addition and provided some funds that were needed in the Buchanan.
Okay, and what is the outdoor mechanical yard and outdoor STEM yard? What does that mean? I think that's the first I've seen that.
Some of that is one, just mechanical, like that's where a lot of the mechanical equipment will sit. So there will be some needs for the electric company to come and service the transformer. There may be some equipment that sits up there. The STEM part of that is these rooms, these technology engineering rooms, have doors that open out. I think we showed you Altoona. They do a float every year for homecoming. They actually build that inside one of their tech rooms, open up a door, it drives right outside. So they have the ability to take, not huge trucks, but small vehicles. They're working on a solar vehicle, so that can come outside and then go back inside. So it's a little bit of an outside space.
So they can work on big
for
projects.
engineering. Right.
Okay, cool.
And deliveries as well. They can go direct
Okay.
to those areas.
Right, so what you have in Franklin now is that back door into the 2 wood shop areas for deliveries, which is nice. We wanted to make sure that they had the abilities for that in that area as well, as those spaces get relocated.
Okay. I think Judy had a question.
Yeah, you'd mentioned, it was the slide, I think, showing the second floor. Or maybe it was the third floor. Yeah, where initially we had a bank of classrooms there on the PAC side, and, cost was removing those. But it sounded like you said we've taken them away, but put them in somewhere else. You were floating around the purple.
So there was a few areas along in here that we were able to kind of extend to get 2 classrooms. So I think, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the math was we took 5 away, but
5
brought
away.
2 back.
Okay.
So it was a net reduction from last time of 3. And again, every time we're doing that, we're working with Bill to make sure, we just cut 12th grade English? No,
Right,
we're,
right,
we're
right.
fine. So the curriculum is still working, and again, some of that is a little bit of a balance of, the new addition got big. We were doing a lot in Buchanan, so we said, all right, let's keeping the budget in mind, let's bring the building back down a little bit, and reutilize some of the existing classrooms in Buchanan.
Okay, I'm glad to hear you got a couple extra in there. I'm glad to hear you got a couple extra
Yeah.
back in. Good.
Justin, do you have a question?
I'll let you go through the presentation and I'll hold my questions to the end.
All right.
I'm sorry, I have one more.
So-
And this is just looking at this. I guess if you look at the slide 7 or slide 8, slide 8. Those spaces which appear to be roofs, like on the right side there, is
Yes.
that a roof over?
Yes, this is a roof over much of the existing building and a little bit of the new.
Okay. Is there any way, in any cost-effective way, to turn some of that space into like an outdoor study area or like what do they call them, like a green roof?
Yeah.
Where we could put like some picnic tables out, people could study there, it could be a break space for faculty or students, I don't know, I'm just,
So we.
as I'm looking at this, like, right now, I'm like ugly air conditioning units sitting on it,
Right.
but might we be able to do something with that space that adds to the aesthetic of the building?
I think so. I think where we had those 5 classrooms before, that hallway still exists. So there's some natural light that we would have alongside there. Certainly, we could have an area because that's part of the new roof. So we can control the structure there. We
Right.
can control the mechanical equipment that would be there or would not be there. So we can certainly look into that and see if that's something, again, that, to keep going back to other projects, but I know that you saw Altoona, we had we had a whole area there that came out to a pad. The idea would, for them, was one day that pad would be a greenhouse, but we made that pad and had the preliminary area for an outdoor space
Mhm.
created so that they could do that in the future. So if that was a pad for a greenhouse or a green roof, green roofs they're there, you kind of go outside, you look at them, you go, "Oh, all right, good." There's not a lot of maintenance involved in them, unless you were trying to have, vegetation or do vegetable gardens, things like that. But
And
we
I'm
can-
thinking more of a space that could be used.
Sure.
But I think it would be neat as you look out from those classrooms, instead of looking at an exhaust duct or an air conditioner, have like, oh, you see colleagues relaxing or networking, you see students studying or whatever. It could potentially be a space that would add to the life of the building if it could be done in a way that's cost effective.
Yeah, no, I think we could look at this general area here because that is over the 2-story space and we can, see how that would work and get back to you guys for next.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm just one voice. I don't know if that's something that anyone
Is
else.
there any safety issues? What would you do to protect the kids from falling off the edge?
We would keep them away from the edge.
Okay.
I'm assuming that it would be.
Dr.
fenced off
Brosman, you,
against them or
you,
something
you
like
okay
that.
with kids on our roof?
I hadn't given it any thought.
What's that, Dr. Buck?
I just said I
I
hadn't
asked-
given it any thought.
You what?
I had not given it any
Oh,
thought. He
okay.
asked if I was okay with kids on the roof. Hadn't thought about it.
I think we can look at some safe options there.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have anybody right up along the edge. It could be like right along, this is the existing auxiliary gym. So if there was a space, say in here, I think this is an area where we're trying to get some natural light.
No, that's the TV studio for, needs a taller.
So it needs a little bit of a taller space. So something in here that could be nice. We don't want it to just feel like a roof, but if there's some ability to have some green space and again, another area for students on beautiful days like today
Yeah.
to be able to go outside and take a look.
Mr. Garber has a comment as well.
Thank you. I think there's a lot of challenges to that with being on the roof for safety and security, managing the kids, a lot of things like that. Just something we need to consider. We also do already have 2 courtyards. Courtyards are going to be much easier for those purposes. for the safety and security and managing of the kids. So just something to consider with that as well. And it is an additional cost that we do already have 2 courtyards. So just something to consider.
Mr. Garber, I did not hear what you said.
Sorry. I said I think there's some safety and security issues there as well, because they're on an island on top of the roof with less management oversight. And then there's also, we already have 2 courtyards for that purpose. So we already have outdoor activities and places for them that are much easier to manage and to oversee. So I think it's a lot to consider, additional cost for something that we already have other places.
I mean, I've been in a lot, I mean, we don't have to solve this problem now, but I've been in a lot of buildings that have spaces like this and they appear to be quite secure. I'm talking like major hotels, office buildings, things like that. So, I mean, like I said, we don't have to, it's just an idea. It's worth, in my opinion, considering. I don't think we have to decide at this moment whether we're gonna do it or not.
We can look at some options and
Yeah.
and share next time.
Do you see that done in other schools very often?
In some areas, Avon Grove has a 3rd floor kind of balcony area that comes outside the TV studio.
Okay.
You see a lot of green roofs. Again, like I said, if there's not a lot to a green roof, it's just sedum, it's just there. It's something to look at. So maybe that's something that we could look at there as you're walking by. If the concern is, and we wouldn't have, big, huge air conditioning units right next to the wall anyway. But we want to look out at something that isn't, look like a, mechanic room or something like that, something nice up there. We could certainly look to that as well. They're pretty low maintenance. They do help a little bit with stormwater, not that much, but it is something that is a nice thing. It's something that the science teams can look at as well, as far as teaching kids about, heat island effect and how, a black roof is pretty hot. But if we have, something that produces oxygen on the roof, that helps reduce it. So that can be a little bit of a lesson plan as well, and we can work with the staff to come up with some.
So maybe it's not a lot of work to do some preliminary estimates and then have Dr. Brossman, our administration, evaluate and see what they think from a security, safety standpoint and come back to us.
I have a question. When you were first talking about that grant, I envisioned, because I've been at, when we visited college, they had like gardens and experiments with their plants and that sort of thing. I realized that probably most of our students wouldn't be that sophisticated with what they do, but it's heavy. So can our roofs support that weight? Does that change what you have to do?
Yeah, I
In
think
the
we
roof?
talked a little bit about that last time with those classrooms, whether those classrooms would be alternates or not. So it's kind of a similar thing. So if we think we may have some occupancy on that roof, we think we may have trays of dirt that will suck up water and be heavy, we can design the roof for that load. There's a little bit more weight to that. So that beam may be 2 inches deeper. Sure, there's a cost to that, but that's not, again, I'll say not that much, but I know that every dollar matters. But those are things that we can look at, and if you think it may be a consideration in the future, then let's do that. Let's beef up the steel just a little bit in those areas to say, hey, we may have some students go out onto that roof. The roof load is set for snow loads, equipment, people walking across it to maintain things and things like that. But if we know we may have a set load like a garden or a bunch of vegetation trays, then that is something to let our structural engineer know. And then we can work with them to see if there's how much did that change the structural steel of that roof.
Thank you.
So what I'm hearing is, as long as we don't let the students go out and have a snowball fight when the
Right.
students and snow at the same time, we'll probably be okay.
Actually, snowball fight would be great. No snow.
Yeah, that's
snow
true.
off the
Okay.
roof. That helps. But no, I think we can again, within reason, we can do some look at some concepts there. We're gonna jump back into the building, but we also wanted to jump out a second to see, all the things that are happening south of Kaufman Road as well. All of those areas in yellow are areas of the stadium, the parking lot improvement. We're adding a band parking lot, in that kind of center, middle, yellow rectangle there. Those are all part of the stadium projects. I'll talk a little bit more in detail of that in a minute. And then you can see the two red ball fields, the softball field, which is in its current orientation and its current location. There are a lot of upgrades that are happening there as well, dugouts and things like that. And then the new baseball field being relocated from its current position. Obviously, that's where the addition's going, heading over next to the primary center. We're starting to see, more and more savings there because that space that we're choosing is already flat. It's already grass. We're saving a lot of money because we don't need an outfield. There already is one there. So it's a good location, makes a lot of sense, and again, keeps a lot of the athletics happening on the south side of Kaufman. As I mentioned, if we dive into the stadium here on the left, the new field house, one thing that I think is interesting to see, with all of the toilet rooms that are there, that's how many porta potties you're supposed to have at your stadium at any given time. That would be a lot. So instead, building the field house here with code compliant restrooms both to the north and to the south. That way we've got some home bathrooms and some visitor bathrooms, as well as trainer spaces and some team rooms and locker rooms for the teams at halftime to utilize all of those spaces. And then I believe it includes renovations of some of the press boxes and the older field house that's there to just kind of paint and fix that up a little bit. But this is the larger new building that would be right along the main drive there at the end, kind of the end of the end zone. The other building to understand that it's a new building on that site is the maintenance building. Maintenance building is kind of what you think it would be. It'd be a big giant open space, kind of taking down that old pole barn. We have a wash bay on the right and then several other bays for vehicles and storage. Per code, we need one handicap accessible toilet room. There's not a whole lot of human occupancy in a maintenance building like this. So that is about the size that meets code. This is a little bit smaller than I think what we were budgeting for. So we've got a little bit of savings there that we're finding in the larger scope of the project.
So where is this maintenance building?
The maintenance building is there.
That one, okay. All right.
No, it's this one. I'm sorry. The new one is here,
Well,
right? The new one is
okay,
there.
right there. Thank you.
And the cause for that is, just a reminder, the cause for that building is to house the mowing and a lot of other equipment that is currently in the barn and the 3-bay garages that are connected to the boiler and chiller house across from the high school.
Thank you.
That's a really good point. With the existing chiller location is obviously heating and cooling the school. That comes down as we get a new energy efficient system. There was a lot of mechanical needs, a lot of maintenance needs in that building as well that needed to be replaced.
Is this something new or did we talk about this before?
We talked about it.
Oh, we did.
It's been part of it from the start.
What's the cost?
So this is part of, we think of this as two different projects.
Right.
It's like a $14 million, all things sports yellow related. And then the new building and the 2 ball fields are associated in the high school project, the $211 million high school project.
Well, what's the cost of this building individually?
Which one?
Of just the
This
maintenance.
building we're
Maintenance
talking about.
building, right now, it was previously priced at 920,000, but it's gonna be less. Because
It's a little
it's now 2,500 square foot smaller.
Okay.
Could I see that slide again with the maintenance building?
Sure.
So I'm looking at it and where's office space, parts and
That wouldn't,
Park
it wouldn't be
space.
necessary. This is just to house equipment. The initial or our existing maintenance building will still remain, and that's where our offices are. No one will be housed out of the new building, just equipment.
So what's going to be in the existing maintenance building in those bays?
The trucks and all the equipment that we already have
The
there.
daily use, I mean, the routinely used things.
Yes, yes. So we just have a need for another building because two of our existing locations will be torn down. So we need to find a
Mhm.
new place to put those things that are housed in those areas.
So the only thing that's going to be in that building, the new building, is going to be vehicles and yard equipment, but there's.
Mostly mowing equipment. Yeah, vehicles are in the existing building. Like the trucks are in the existing building.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I've been in that building, but
Mhm.
how many bays was it?
Six.
6 bays for lawnmowers, or are these garage-sized bays?
Yes, they're designed, they're actually mimicking the similar sized bay that's next to the steam plant.
Okay,
Because
Uh-huh.
there's a backhoe
Uh-huh.
in there, there's large scale
Okay.
lawnmower and other machines that need, a
Tractors.
10-foot wide garage door.
so theoretically, there's no maintenance going in there and no vehicles, except
correct.
for, I don't, like lawn vehicles, except.
Tractors, that
Right.
sort of thing, yeah.
And so where's all the spare parts and all of that stuff for those vehicles? For that equipment, where's that going to be?
There's storage in the back at the bottom. There'll be storage shelves and so forth there.
Okay. And there's no office space in that?
No, no one will be, no individuals will be housed in that building.
Okay, thanks.
So, a little bit of a brief overview, and then we're going to dive in a little bit more specific to the building. So again, just kind of what everybody's been up to. The biweekly design committee, which has been really tremendous over the last several months, of going over every nook and cranny, every area, every square inch of the building. We've had a lot of discussion, obviously, as we're kind of more than halfway for sure at this point, about making sure that we're getting the best value for every dollar we're spending here, and making sure that all of this is going back towards our students and our teachers in the new addition, and certainly the building at Buchanan that we're renovating. A lot of coordination with a lot of the consultants from a lot of the sports guys outside and site work, as well as engineering teams. Our building information model has started. Actually, it's very far along now. So everything nowadays is done three-dimensionally. The old days of blueprints and people drawing with pencils is gone. Everything is much more animated, and we're virtually building the building so that we can see every wire, every duct, every pipe in the building before construction starts, to try to avoid as many unforeseen conditions as we can in the future. So a lot has happened. The land development process is happening as well. We said earlier on that runs parallel with all of the design work. There has been some approvals from East Hempfield Township just last week. So all the parties and all the local groups are working together. Good. And that continues, which is a critical path to make sure we stay on schedule.
What's the high school value engineering? What's that?
So value engineering is essentially a process. Sometimes in processes, there'll be a pause. So, all right, everybody value engineer. We kind of feel like we try to do that in every discussion we have. Value engineering is, I'll speak for John, it's the CM way of cutting things out of the project. And we go, no, we don't want to just cut. We want to make sure that we're being efficient in every decision that we make. So the value engineering process is making sure, as I said earlier, that every dollar is going towards something that really matters. So we want to, that's where you could see items where a wing of a building got kind of pulled in a little bit. We didn't lose anything, but we made that a little bit more easily constructed, which saves money. We were talking in a meeting yesterday, we're getting to the point now where everything so far has been about square footage. How big is it? Well, obviously the square foot amount for an English classroom is not the same as one for a science lab or the kitchen. Each space has different value based on its materials. So a lot of what we're working with now with partnering with Fidavia is to go and say, all right, here's how much drywall we have in the building. Here's how many windows we have. Here's the specifics that a contractor is going to look at when they're bidding the building and go, all right, it's exactly this. Because a 300,000 square foot building could be a variety of costs depending on the materials and things that are inside. So this is where we have the specifics now working with John and his team to go, all right, here's something that's pretty expensive item. Is that something that we can reduce? Do we really need as many of those things? While still creating value for the project.
Is that done with the administration, basically, back and forth?
So that's what a lot of those nitty gritty conversations are back and forth. We're highlighting some of those tonight, but behind the scenes are hours of meetings with every move. And what's great is having that committee between the educators, the people that are going to educate your students, the people that are going to heat and cool the building and deal with maintenance. Our team that has to design and build all those things, John's team that's, focusing on the schedule and the budget, everyone's in the room. We're all hearing the priorities that everyone has. So that process is truly collaborative.
So you've already kind of done that so far. This is just continuing to do it further and further as you get more into the weeds and do the information models and.
Right. We're gonna talk a little bit in a moment about bidding alternates and why that's a strategy in bidding some of the public projects, but also a way to sometimes gain some things that may have slipped down a peg or two on the priority scale, but something that's still wanted, still valued in the project. But life could go on if it was not included in the construction.
Okay, thank you.
I mentioned schedule. Like I said, we're kind of rounding, heading to second, and we're starting to round the 50% portion of this phase. So that design development study will be done at the end of October. What that means is that's a great time for, and again, Fidavia's doing a lot of cost estimates along the way, but that provides a lot of detail and a lot of information for Fidavia to take and go, all right, let's count drywall, let's count doorknobs, let's count windows, and make sure that we're staying within budget on our larger cost per square foot numbers. So that process will occur over the fall. We're still going to keep moving ahead with a goal to wrap up our drawings and be ready to bid at the end of February. So bidding could start in early March. Still looking at a June 1st construction start for 2026. So looking at the schedule above, again, the next 12 months is really a lot of us, the engineers. June of next year, we're off and running on construction. The new building takes about 2 years. And I'm going to point this out every time we're together. That's phase 1. Then there's phase 2, which is finishing all of Buchanan. And then there's phase 3, which is taking down Franklin and building the parking lot. Phase 1, believe it or not, is a little smoother sometimes than 2 and 3. Because a lot of the things you're used to, the front door of the existing high school is still there. The parking lots are still there. At phase 2, we're in Buchanan, so we may have to, we were just talking about this before we started the night, where are we? What classrooms do we really need to use in Franklin? But phase 3, that's taking down Franklin. We're going to lose some parking during that phase. And when does that happen versus when the new parking lot is created? Central Buck South is getting ready to build an addition at their school. My son is a junior. He gets his driver's license, if he passes, in October. They've already stated come January, when construction starts, juniors may lose their parking spots because of the amount of laydown space and things like that we need. He is not happy. I told him I'd be happy to have the principal let everyone know that Brendan Kelly's dad is the reason that juniors can't park. He passed on that and calmed down with it. But there will be some time in that 29, 30 stage where we may have less parking than you do now ahead of getting more parking in the end. So we'll work with you as those phases go. But it's always very important to realize, you know, those additional phases, there's still work to do to take Franklin down and build those parking.
I had a community member recently ask me just about a week ago, have we looked at modular construction as far as condensing the construction time and keeping some of that offline time minimized?
Right. The challenging stuff with prefab buildings is it's a lot of repetitive needs. So if you go back and look at the floor plan, there's not a whole lot of repetition that we have. So one of the advantages of pre-construction or prefab construction is that they can build everything and then it just kind of shows up and installs. So all of that construction work is happening off-site, but we see that for hotels, college dorms, things like that are just kind of a repetitive thing kind of over and over again. This is so unique. We're building into an existing building. We're touching this hallway and moving that hallway. That the custom part of this, and not by luxury, it's just custom by the situation wouldn't really lend itself to prefab construction.
Okay, thank you. I just want to get that question out there for him.
You may have talked about this before, but just a question, the STEAM building that we have now is I believe the new building's gonna take over that area, right? So you're gonna have some kind of temporary setup for supplying steam?
Yeah, so day one is renovating the existing Buchanan wing where there's some mechanical spaces now to be one of essentially two large mechanical spaces. One
Gotcha.
that's going to be in Buchanan and one that's going to be in the new building. So that building stays, where the chiller is, that stays until the new building is operational. So that won't come down until the summer of 28.
Okay.
But by the summer of 28, we've disconnected everything. And we have all the new stuff up and running.
Okay. I figure you had that. That has to be part of the plan. They need
Yeah,
heating
that's-
and air conditioning.
A little important. I'm sure we would get a call. Hey, we have no heat. Oh, right, sorry. So jumping back into the scope and looking at how we're maintaining budget, this kind of gets into the conversation about value engineering. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I have to ask this question. The idea is you build the new addition, Franklin Wing stays there. When Buchanan Wing is being renovated, the kids are in the new addition and still in the Franklin Wing. Which you said when that renovation starts, the steam plant goes down. How do you heat the Franklin Wing at that time?
That's a good point. So that comes down the summer of 29, not 28.
Okay, because I'm thinking, you know,
Right.
by that time, winters maybe
No, you're
the
right.
coolest temperature
You're right,
maybe
you're right, you're right.
55 degrees and you don't need heat, but
That building comes down with Franklin. So you're right.
yeah, it's
So
got
when
to stay
Franklin
till
comes
the
down,
end.
that comes down, which would be the summer of 29 on that schedule, or it could be sooner, but
Right, because you're going to, you know, building it and even,
yes, so that's one of the advantages. We're not putting money into Franklin. We're not going to put a brand new HVAC system in Franklin only to rip it back out. So yes, you're right. To that point, that building comes down when Franklin does. Even though Buchanan and the new building may be operating on its own system, and that chiller that's sized to run Franklin and Buchanan would now only be running Franklin for several months.
and wouldn't there be heat required while Buchanan's being
Mhm.
renovated? You know, even though the kids aren't in there, I'm
Right, so
assuming
there-
you don't
there wouldn't-
renovate and
Right, there wouldn't be a time where we wouldn't have heating and cooling in an occupied
so,
space.
yeah, so you need the heat
Right. Because
basically until
even
the
if
end.
Buchanan, and that's one of the things we're saying tonight, like there's 3 summers while the new building is being built that we could be doing some work and probably will be doing some work in Buchanan. So where does that occur? Because at some point we need a safe way to get from Franklin to the new building, and they don't touch. So how does that occur?
Right.
Is, do we work on one level so that's done and we can get kids from Franklin to the new building while the other part is being renovated? So all of those things are being worked out.
Okay. And I guess to follow up the question too, where the steam line is currently running into the buildings.
Yes.
Some of that looks like where the new building is.
Yes, so
Going.
there's three lines coming out of that building there. One that goes to, one that goes to Franklin, one that goes to Buchanan, and one that goes to the PAC. The one that goes to the PAC, we're building right on top of. Fortunately, that's only heating and cooling the PAC. So that first summer of 26, is when new units will be developed for the PAC. So we can start building, and again, it's a big building, we'll start on the right and work our way left. We're phasing that so that the new heating and cooling system for the PAC is up and running. When we sever that line, then the power plant is only running Franklin and Buchanan. 2 years later, everything's up and running. To your point, we make sure we're ready to take Franklin down before we take the power plant.
And then the steam and chilled water line that is feeding Franklin is actually just north of our footprint. So that we don't touch it while we're building a new addition.
That's somewhat why the building is where it is. We had to kind of move that down a little bit to be far enough away from that line. And that's really where we're setting the building, is a safe distance from that line.
So this piping that you're putting in is still going to be underground, correct?
Yeah, so everything that.
It's going to be above ground?
Once we cut all that, everything is essentially what we would say is a traditional system. So you'll have pipes, there'll be some stuff underground, but you'll have pipes running down corridors. That's heating and cooling individual units that are placed in an efficient way throughout the new building, and a similar type system in the Buchanan wing as well.
I just want to make sure the pipes that are underground, we don't have the same fiasco we had here, and they have better materials or something. So 25, 30 years from now, we're not,
Right.
look, Kim James and company are worried about us losing heat in the middle of the winter because of steam leaks.
Right, you won't have that. This is a completely different system. And most of the components that are going back and forth are above ground.
That's good. Thank you.
So we want to talk a little bit about some of the things we did in the new edition and then some of the things we did in Buchanan. So if we take a look at Buchanan, this was pretty fun. We showed an existing picture. This is a current classroom. This is one of the smaller classrooms, so it's at 660 square feet. And we are painting, we're putting up whiteboards, new furniture, and new ceilings and light. So we're gonna have an image in a minute about all the amount of work. A lot of the money that we're spending in this room is above the ceiling. That's all the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing work. So there's several classrooms that will look better than they do now, but are basically the same size. This is another classroom that's 660 square feet, where if you look at that back wall with the flags on it, that's getting pushed back. So in this case, we are expanding that room so that we can have rooms that can hold much larger class sizes. Again, painting, flooring, new ceilings and lights in those classroom spaces, but there are a few in Buchanan that are enlarging. I like showing these slides as well so that everyone understands, when this project is over and you're walking down the hallway in Buchanan, you go, you didn't really do much. Well, you did a lot. And what you did is all up in the ceiling. So this is a picture from Bain Middle School in Pennsbury. And that's what this school looked like for a year. Kids were going to school in this building while it looked like that. That was okay. It was safe. We had smoke detectors up there. We had all the things that we needed for fire code. But off hours, when students weren't there, there was a lot of piping and a lot of wiring being done in those spaces. So we may have instances like that in Buchanan. So we want to show those types of images to everyone, parents, teachers as well. So you don't think that we're missing something. We know that there's not a ceiling there. And then when the project is over, it's essentially, the lower left to the lower right. Lockers are still there. They're in good shape. Floor is in good shape. We'll paint the walls. But what you can see new ceiling tiles and those kind of linear lights are LED lights versus the big rectilinear fluorescent ones. So there is a lot of energy efficiency and infrastructure work being done in Buchanan. That was the scope for Buchanan. There's a couple of new things, but the majority of it is, some of the items you may not see above the ceiling.
And all of the air conditioning in the entire Buchanan will be new.
Right.
So that'll be an important piece. So why, again, to Mike's point, while the hallways currently are not air conditioned, they will be, because the whole system will be completely upgraded.
So the pictures may look the same, but it's gonna feel, it's gonna smell different. It's gonna be, 25, 30 more years of operation for sure.
How wide are Buchanan hallways here?
Are they 11? All right, so they're 11. So typically in a new building, we might go with 10. So even at 11, that's wide, especially for high school kids. You want that to be.
So these are 11 feet, so they're pretty good size.
They're pretty good
But I
size.
think our Franklin are more narrow, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
And the new building will be 10, did you say?
10 at a minimum.
At a
There's
minimum.
a lot of areas that are 12 and sometimes even wider. Like the main street is obviously much bigger.
Gotcha.
That's one of the challenges with Franklin is so many of those classrooms are undersized. The corridor's undersized. That would be very challenging to renovate out of.
What's the norm for width of I'm over here, sorry. Did you show you this voice? What's the norm for the width of a normal corridor?
Like I
And what's
said,
the average? Cause like a basketball lane is 12 feet. That ain't long, like that ain't big. You put 6 guys going for a rebound, it's jammed in there.
Yeah.
That's 6 dudes on a 12-foot wide,
Right.
right? So like
So-
you say 10 feet, I'm like, that is a cattle chute.
Yep, 10 feet would be the minimum. So like I said, in the new building, in some areas where it's kind of at the end of the hallways, that can be reduced back down to 10, but in the main cross section that we have there, it's 14, 16 feet in some areas. High school kids are big. So in an elementary school, it might be 8 feet because you're talking about smaller kids. But here it's at a minimum 10 feet. That'd be a good exercise. See Buchanan at 11 versus Franklin, that's 8. That's a big difference, having a couple of extra people.
Yeah.
The new building, will it have lockers or no lockers?
So we have some, but not all, because you have so many in Buchanan. And because what we've heard from a lot of other school districts as well as here, students just aren't using them. Obviously in our locker rooms, we'll have new lockers. But in many of the corridors, we're not including.
Because I thought I remember Avon Grove didn't have many lockers, if I recall. Is that right?
It was built with 50% lockers. When we did Lower Moreland, that was a third. And after the first year at Lower Moreland said how many, they had 1,400 students. So I think we had, 500 lockers maybe. And we said, all right, well, how many kids are using lockers? He said 4.
Yeah, they're not used.
1,400.
So do we really need lockers in the new,
We don't currently have lockers going in the new part.
when the new building?
Just the locker rooms. But
Okay.
as he said, the lockers will stand in Buchanan side.
Yeah,
So the new building is not going to have lockers?
The new building has lockers in the locker room.
Only locker room, but not in the hallways.
Lockers. No, I don't believe we have any because we have so many here.
But that also creates a contention, the guy with his
Right.
backpack and
Right.
then it decreases your.
But this is an area where we hear what I think is an odd number of comments from the community. There is a misconception that high school students are not permitted to have lockers, correct? But they are, they just have to like go and say, I want a locker, right?
Correct. At the opening, in my summer letter, they're told that if they need a locker, they can request it from the counselor. At the opening day's assembly, it was reiterated that if you need a
And
locker,
there's
talk to
no
your counselor.
means testing, right? They don't have to show that they need one. They just say, hey, Dr. Brossman, or your secretary or something, I'd like a locker, and you hand them a key, right? I mean, there's no, if they don't have to demonstrate a need for the locker, they just have to say they want one, right?
Correct. We do
Yeah.
ask what they want it for, so we can get it at the right part of the building. Like if you need a locker for, like dance theater or something, we want to put the locker near the PAC or so we do ask if there's we ask if they have a specific reason they're looking for the locker, so we can put in the right spot, but no one who asks for a locker is told no.
Yeah, but there persists to be this rumor in the community that they're not allowed to have lockers or that it's some onerous chore to obtain one. And I guess I'm hoping that people who are listening tonight hear this loud and clear, but if you want a locker, just go ask for a locker and you're gonna get one.
Correct.
Yeah.
So those are some of the places in Buchanan. We wanted to talk a little bit about science. There are several new science labs as part of the new building on the 3rd floor. Most of the existing science labs in Buchanan remain and are renovated. So if you look here, this is the area where the 2nd and 3rd floor of Buchanan, of all the ones that are there on the 2nd floor, they're getting completely renovated, meaning, again, every space is getting HVAC and new air conditioning and electric and lighting. But in here, we're getting all new casework, all new lab tables. On the 3rd floor, we had a few rooms that in walking through, we said, all right, well, let's replace the islands. But some of that perimeter casework could probably stay in an effort to reduce some costs. Science casework is expensive. So if we're looking for a series of areas that we can save, 6-digit numbers from the project or include them as a bidding alternate, this was one area that we saw as a potential. So here we have of all the labs in the building, there's 8 on that 2nd floor. There's another 8 on the 3rd floor, plus the 7 or 8 we're building over here. Of all of those, we're looking at 5 that are still getting new lab tables, but it's the perimeter casework that would remain. So this is one of those rooms. You can see the islands in the middle. Again, new flooring, new lighting, new HVAC, new all the components. So the tables are replaced. The tops are new. The tops on the perimeter casework is new. It's just that the casework themselves, all of these kind of doors and hinges, which looked like they were in fine shape, those were areas that we said, all right, that is a potential add alternate. So what we would do on bid days, we would bid, the base bid includes everything that you see there, but we have a way to say, all right, what is the cost for the perimeter casework in those 5 labs only? So it's a very small part of only a handful of classrooms, but you can start to see some of those value engineering ideas to say, all right, let's get some large ticket things that we can have in our back pocket. If on bid day, the bids come in a little high, we go, hey, you know what, we don't really need that. Sometimes the bids come in fine and we find, hey, perimeter casework is half what we thought it would be. We go, wow, that's a good price, you should take it. And then you can have that choice to amend that and add that back into the project at that time. So that's just one of a few examples there. But we wanted to share how, again, the vast majority of those science spaces, other than the doors themselves in 5 of the 20-some labs, would be fully renovated as part of the renovation project. And obviously anything new is brand new.
I have a question. How in the science labs, and this would also be in the kitchen, in the,
Family consumer science.
thank you, FCS. How are those vented from the smells and the smoke and, because I'm looking there and I just see lights, but.
Right. So every classroom will have, whether it's science or cooking, will have CO2 monitor. So it's looking at carbon monoxide. It's saying, hey, there's 28 kids in here breathing in and out. We need some more fresh air. That can bring in fresh air and create better indoor air quality in every room in the whole school. In a place like a cooking class, obviously there's some ventilation there to get the smoke if the cookies get burned and things like that. And that's essentially just direct exhaust. In a science lab, it depends on what they're doing. If it's chemistry, there tends to be hoods. Those are installed and those are being provided as part of the project, whether that's in a chemistry lab that's in the new building or in the old building. Those all sit there as well for again, code compliance as well as just safety for any fumes or anything that somebody in the chem lab may be utilizing.
So when you say the kids are there, are they around the side or are they in?
Yeah, they're not. in
Suspended
this-
from the
this
ceiling
diagram
or?
one, right? So yes, that's a picture, and in this rendering, there would be a duct either up from it or into the wall. Wherever those are, the proper fresh air as well as the proper exhaust, we have to by code provide them.
Mike, if I jump in, so this is a chemistry room. All of our chemistry rooms also have vent fans in the ceiling, like aside from the fume hood there on the side. Like the teacher just goes to the switch on the wall. It's like a timer thing. You turn it, it opens up the vent in the ceiling, and it provides a strong draft out of the room. So all of our chemistry rooms are equipped with that. I imagine that stays.
Yeah,
Because that, yeah.
the mechanical engineer, in the old days, what the term is called air changes per hour. In the old days, you would not have had too many air changes per hour in the Buchanan Science Lab. The current code is to have 16 air changes per hour in a science lab or a food cooking lab, whereas a classroom, it's only 8. So it's automatically going to have twice the amount of ventilation occurring in the room.
And I'm asking because when we were first starting this project on, as I encountered high school students, I said, what do you think should be added? And several were like, we need better vents. We in the science labs. So I don't know what's in there now. I mean, I'm just going by what they were telling me. So
Yep.
that's why I was asking. So thank you.
Question for the Buchanan House, since it is going to get some renovations and things. Is it structurally sound? Can you, if we start moving walls or things down, we're not going to find, I know there's a contingency fee for some things, but this is like major structural problems, because I know there's a stream running underneath it and
Yeah, so we tested for all of those things for the water. We've had some geotechnical testing outside. Most of the work in Buchanan is mechanical, electrical, plumbing. There's
Right.
not a whole lot of walls that are moving. But yeah, in some areas there are, and what we're putting back is not anything overly heavy that would have any different types of code compliance issues. We're not moving the library and 20,000 books to the 3rd floor of an existing building that didn't have that load before. So we don't anticipate any of those types of concerns.
okay, just making sure again, because, start building this and all of a sudden you can't do this.
There hopefully won't be any, we can't do those. There will be those nights where we say, hey, here's something that was uncovered.
Right.
And again, that's why the contingency is sitting there. I always use the example at Pottsgrove High School, we tore a wall out and found a column hanging from the beam above. Like there was a 6-inch gap between the bottom of the column and its footing. It's like, well, that's not how gravity works. Like how does that? So of course we have to go and put some plates in and things like that. And so that was all done. But there's no way to see it until that
Right.
wall. So there's certain things that we may find. Sure that we will, but that's why that money is there.
Okay.
I mean, the reality is our existing Buchanan labs are not horrible. I think the Buchanan was renovated in 93 and we're improving the air conditioning, we're improving the ventilation. And so we're just making it better. But if you look at the proposed and existing, it's not like gigantically different,
Right. No, and that was one of the attractive parts about Buchanan is the gym is there, the locker rooms are there. Certainly the pack is there. I mean, do we really want to go and rebuild all those things if we built 100% new? So there was a lot of that stuff was already there and in good shape and in good size, where Franklin wasn't.
Right.
So a lot of what you're seeing that we're building are kind of those specialized spaces, music and art, and STEM and some science. A more we'll say state-of-the-art gymnasium space. It's a little bit bigger than certainly what you have now. So we're replacing that Ox gym, which is tiny, with a new gym that's going to be the main gym. So all of those things are the needs of both academics and the arts and athletics that we're really struggling, let's say, in the existing two facilities, we're able to right-size all of that as part of this project. Another example, and again, we just wanted to point out a few things. We are building a new gym, as I mentioned, that does have locker rooms next to it. But we also still have the existing gym and its two sets of lockers on either side of that weight room space. So when we looked at renovating all of those spaces, again, every space in the building has mechanical, electrical, plumbing, ceilings, lighting. So even in the areas that we say we're doing nothing, we're still doing a lot. So we kind of determined and said, all right, if we wanted to pull back a little bit on one of the locker room spaces, which ones should we do? So we looked at the ones on the right-hand side of the screen. In red are in between that existing weight room and the existing gym, which would again now become the smaller gym. Again, full ADA compliance, everything that is needed by code. But here we were adding some new team rooms. We were changing out the gang showers that no one really uses anymore. So we were doing a lot more work in those. And then the locker rooms that are on the west of the locker room space, there we're just looking at essentially code compliance, painting on the walls, again, HVAC work and things like that as a base bid. And then on bid day, there will be a number for an alternate to include those as well. So we're getting to a point where, like I said, we're looking for those kind of 6-digit, $100,000 plus things that we can provide you on bid day to say, hey, we came in great. You know, do we want to add a few more things? Or, hey, we're pretty close. Maybe we want to pull back on a few things. This was identified as another spot. So we just wanted to share those two examples as value engineering and then what alternative bidding allows us to do. One thing to share as well from athletic side in the gym space and pulling the building away a little bit from the that steam line, we kept pulling the building in. We actually had this area stepped at one point where we didn't have that that area for storage. And working with civil and working with our structural engineers, well, it's just kind of looking at the constructability of all of that. We said, you know, it'd probably be less expensive if we put that wall in anyway, because rather than digging in and digging out corners, if we just let that wall go across, just keep that as an unfinished space. I mean, it might just be a concrete floor, throw some lights in it. We've just added some additional storage space and probably didn't really add any additional cost to the project. So we saw this as you know, kind of a good news scenario of, you know, hey, let's work on some of the constructability of that. The guys that are doing the digging in that aren't going to want to go in and out. So they just go straight across, provide that room. As long as we're not making that a science lab, every gym needs more and more storage. So we kind of found that as an area, again, to kind of point to and say, we think this is a good thing to add. Will just be unfinished space, really wouldn't affect the budget. To that point, here's the budget. So the initial estimate, again, everybody goes to the bottom line of 211.3 million. What you see from the initial to current, again, the bottom line is holding. That's the most important one. But you can see some of the total construction numbers have risen a little bit. Where that came out of and where everything is balanced is some of the soft costs. So those are things working with Fidavia that we were able to find things like a little less cost for baseball fields, a little less cost for certain fees and things like that to reduce that number and bring that number into the total construction costs a little bit more. What you're seeing as well, the market contingency. A year ago, we were saying, hey, we're 12 months out, you know, let's keep $3.5 million because we don't know what the markets would do. We are 6 months closer and no less concerned about what the markets could do just from things that happen on a daily basis in this country, all politics aside. We don't know things that can fluctuate one way or the other. So we want to include a larger safety net in that contingency number. So we were able to find some savings, move some things up, kind of what we would call above the construction cost line. just to hold a little bit more contingency than what we were holding before, just to see what the world looks like 6 months from now.
So, Mr. Kelly, looking at the market contingency, obviously that's anyone's best educated guess at this point. Would you describe the budgeted amount of the market contingency as the 50th percentile of likely outcomes? Like, is there a scenario where the market contingency would be 0? And is there a scenario where it would be 10 or 11 million?
So,
And is that simply the middle of your bell curve of estimates?
yeah, I think at this point, even 6 months out, we still want to have a robust number.
Okay.
At a minimum, I think that 3.6 would have carried over. But just looking at some other bids, and again, we've talked a lot about Pennsbury High School. That goes out to bid in 2 months. So that's the big one that we've been kind of testing. I know John and his team have several high schools, a little bit more in central Pennsylvania that are going out to bid as well. You know, the markets that everyone's concerned about are things like mechanical equipment, electrical equipment continues to rise. So those are the things that, again, as stewards to your budget, we're saying, all right, let's hold on to that. There'll be a budget come February, you know, a month before we go out to bid, that number will be 0, because at that point we go, all right, we've eaten that contingency. We're going out to bid in 4 weeks. So this is a current number that we feel that we're gonna hold. But right now we think that 5.4 would be part of what would potentially be a $188 million construction project. And that way we're still staying within that 211.3.
And the 211.3 also includes the cost for the baseball and softball fields. But that contingency, market contingency piece is also slightly higher, not only from some of the MEP and the electrical pieces we've been talking with John, but also there's still a lot of uncertainty with land development, stormwater management, some of those pieces. So as we're still working through the geotechnical testing and reporting, we had a meeting today about that. There are concerns just based on new standards. And I think what was shared with us today is we're kind of the first one really running through is on a larger scale from the county standpoint. But there are some concerns with regards to some of the stormwater and some of the land development pieces, which is why that number is a little higher at this point. It could change, it could go down, but it also could stay. And
You're talking about like things like the PRISM project, things like that. We just might run out of local capacity to do some of these projects?
no.
Like there might not be enough equipment or?
No, what I'm talking about is based on the geotechnical testing of the land here and the
Oh,
amount of
okay,
work
got
that
it.
needs to be done based on new regulations. It's making it more challenging for larger projects, this being one of them.
Okay.
So as we're starting, we see where the water table is and things that might have to happen with footers, with the concrete pads and whatnot, and the amount of rock that's underneath, the water infiltration, all of those pieces coming in, those are pieces they're still working through, which is why that number, plus what they're seeing, current bids that are out there, electrical seems to be the higher piece right now. That seems to be staying up there and not going up.
For timeline's sake, though, that will be wrapped up by February before we go out to bid.
Well, yes. So what we're stating now is if today was February, we would be looking at a construction cost of 188 million. That's why we want to maintain that contingency in there, even though if we were bidding it today, it might be 183. We don't know, and to Mike's point of the things that we still have to document and design, and then, market contingencies. We want to hold on to that for the next 6 months.
So I'm a little confused here. You have market contingency and construction contingency. Why do you have both? And how did you come up with going from 3.6 to 5.4 million?
So the marketing contingency, and if John wants to jump in, that like I said, is we're holding that for the unknowns of the construction before bidding. How much more will electric cost? How much more will mechanical cost? Dr. Maruski brought up the point of land development. We may have more site work than we anticipated because of some poor infiltration. Some things may need to be a little bit bigger. So we're still designing that, but that's why we want to hold on to that number ahead of time. Then post bid day, as we were saying before, that 3.6 for construction contingency is just holding on to a small percentage saying, there is gonna be a few.
That's
things-
based more on just a percentage of the project. Is that
Th-
correct?
Right.
That's the construction contingency is your change order fund. That's a separate pot of money to cover unforeseens. When you get into Buchanan, it's gonna happen. You're gonna uncover stuff. They're gonna be presenting change orders. So that's a wise number to have. And you just to kind of add on to what Mike said, the market contingency, we start with a number that is an industry average, we feel, early on. And we do decrease that as we see the stability in the market, which right now there's not a lot, but also the unforeseens. Quite a bit of our testing hasn't come back real well. So we're looking at larger than normal footings by a large amount. The stormwater tests are not doing real well. So we're looking at potentially a little more expensive stormwater. So we have these, this is part of construction. This is how you work through it. And that we use that market contingency to help soften that. So that will be a much smaller number when we get to getting ready to go out to bid, and we'll have a lot less unknowns. We'll have a lot of these things figured out that we're still working through.
Okay, so that's based on you helped develop that with the architect, Fadavia?
Yes.
Okay. So what is soft costs? Could you review again? I know we talked.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in time, usually as we get near to go out to bid, we can start putting some actual numbers in. That's all your non-construction related costs associated with the building. Okay, that is, right now, that's a catch-all. We actually ran a spreadsheet, and we could share that. Fadavia could share that, but that's KCBA, that's more engineering, that's Fadavia, that's your building permit, your builder's risk insurance. That's all your third-party testing that has to be done and is being done now. That's your commissioning and your balancing for your HVAC system. There's a lot of costs that the district will incur in this building that's not directly under those four primes. It's essentially most of the stuff that you'll be paying for directly. It's those items.
So that's a big reduction. And pardon me, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but you look at this and it's almost like you fudge some numbers so you get the same bottom line. If somebody would look at it, and I'm sure everybody's thinking that.
I totally get that. I think the 20.1 was KCBA's, and they put some contingencies and stuff in theirs. And then we switched when Fadavia started providing, after their conceptual estimate that was first presented, we don't. Our soft costs are, we pull all of our contingencies out. We don't put FF&E in. So yeah, those numbers are broken out separate for us.
Yeah, I'd like to see some more from you guys later, but
Yeah,
you came up with those numbers.
And to tighten up our estimate, that's one of the things we did last round, is we actually went and got all the hard numbers we could. A lot of it is still percentage based, like your building permit fee, but things like tab, we can estimate your testing and balancing, commissioning off this size project. So we ran another spreadsheet, and yeah, we were able to tighten that up a bit.
I mean, I'm glad to see that, but that's a 25% reduction basically, right? Ballpark?
Well, 20.
As John said, when we were putting those
20%.
things together, it was a percentage. It was a typical percentage for a school construction project. This is a very large one. So that percentage created a very large number, larger than was needed.
And yeah, that's what we found. We have 4 other high school estimates we're working on, but they're much smaller scale projects. So those may have started out at 14%, but because we get economies of scale with a much larger project, it warranted going through and actually itemizing it. And
So we don't think those soft costs will go back up.
only if the cost of the project would go up, because it's actually based on a percentage now of it's 8.9%. So that's going to continue to vary as we tweak the cost of the project.
Okay. Thank you.
So we wanted to give a quick tour of the building kind of as we wrap up. Again, the front door, if we go in that front door, the main lobby here, remember you're on that mid-level when you first come in. So you're kind of at the upper level of the gymnasium. which is pretty cool to be able to kind of come in. It's almost like, you know, a professional arena where you come in, you're going to be above the seats and work your way down to where the floor is. You can see here as well, a very wide, certainly much wider than 10 feet corridor space as that main hallway heading north and south, north and south on the plan, hooking up to the rest of the school at the end of that hallway there. A view here, if you went into those doors from that upper level, we have a little bit of an upper level running track, but also where a lot of the seats kind of start. So you could work your way around the corner there and then down the bleachers to the seating area. You can see the competition floor below. There is cross-court basketball available as well for practice and physical education class. But this is a very nice, we said 2,500 seat gymnasium space here. This would be the new main gym of the school. If you go further down that hallway, this is when we get to the library learning commons. This is also essentially the lobby for the PAC. So now everybody comes out of the PAC and kind of turns the corner and you're in that kind of little area outside the bathroom. That's that hallway space there. That space there. So kind of in the middle of the screen, straight ahead to the left is the hallway that takes you up along the PAC. So now an intermission, now before a show, certainly after a show, all of that very tight space really comes down here. So this is where essentially the new building and the old building meet. It's kind of the nook that's there now that goes in from where the PAC comes out and the existing gym entrance space is. Actually, those columns on the right is the outside right now of the entrance to the existing athletic lobby. So you can kind of see, and then you know the reason that wall that says Learning Commons, that's part of the PAC coming around there. So this is filling in that nook that's there, connecting all of the hallways.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, Mr. Kelly, this could be like, if we would do like receptions before, or after a performance or after a game or something like that, this space could flex into an event space for a reception, things like that.
Yep, no, absolutely. And that's what's nice with its location outside of the gym, outside of the PAC, outside of the Aux gym. Immediately across from that is the library media center, which has got a lot of different components to it. We're going to show that in a second. So that this is really the heart of the school, and it's in the right place because of kind of its current location. You could go here right now and stand outside and almost see this. So it's really where all of those things are kind of coming together. So it made sense to create, you know, the lobby spaces for those three areas. You know, some two-story areas like we want for music and chorus. The black box theater is right behind us, and then the library space kind of through that glass there. Beyond.
Mike, sorry. Yeah, if you've ever attended one of our spring musicals and you
Yeah,
know
it's
what the lobby is
jam-packed.
like afterwards.
Yeah, it's
So-
jammed. You can't even walk through it.
So on the left side of that image there, you see the shield. To the left of that, just off screen, is the doors to the new music department area. The choral room, the band room, the orchestra room, the green rooms. So our performing arts students will be back there and they have access to the back of the stage. So when the parents ever want to meet the cast after the show, this is where all that's going to happen. And people aren't going to be jammed in like sardines after those big performances in the spring musical, dance theater, that type of thing. So just wanted to help everyone kind of see the vision a little bit.
So ballpark, the space we have now versus what we'll have then, you give me a ballpark square footage or 3 times as big, 5 times as big? Just curious.
So Charles, you go to the basketball games and wrestling matches a lot.
Right,
So
right.
that concrete space outside the 3 steps when you walk into the Buchanan gym,
Yeah,
it's that space.
okay.
It's that space right there. So after me, you want to drive over and check it out. Like you can see it.
So
Like,
substantially bigger than I'm talking about the other end of the pack where you walk in Buchanan lobby. That's gonna be much bigger, correct? This space here,
this space is much bigger than that space.
and we'll be able to go into the pack from this.
You'll go down the hall and enter the pack as you do right now,
Okay.
but it'll all be on one floor.
Right.
Okay, so that's another big change. Right now, from the PAC lobby, you go down some steps to get to this. This is all going to be on the same level as the Buchanan Gym lobby. You come out the Buchanan Gym lobby, you go down a couple steps. That Buchanan Gym lobby level floor is the new first floor of the Hempfield High School.
Where's the new gym from here? 'Cause I'm looking
Behind you.
Behind you.
Behind you.
You have to go in this way.
180
toward-
degrees behind where you're looking.
Okay.
So that's why it's kind of the perfect spot, as kind of awkward as it is to fill all those things in, because we have the gym behind us, the old gym to the right, the PAC to the left, the new music spaces, like all of that is right there centrally.
So
located.
people can come after games into that area?
So that
So
could
there'll be a lot
used
more
after-
space.
The games, after practice, after musical events. It could be the musical event. We have the Black Box Theater that's right there. So, again, using the example at Altoona, they do a lot of jazz band concerts and things like that, and they do that there versus being in the giant auditorium. They're able to have some concerts here. So, this space is kind of acoustically designed to allow for that as well.
Thank you.
I get text every once in a while from the principal at Altoona with, in that common space, just other things that they're using it for. They had their band front, would practice in here on rainy days. So they would come in, they just needed a high space because they were throwing some stuff in here. So they just had the ability to have another space that had a little bit of height right outside from where the music space was, that they could, practice and utilize that space. So, we could name several dozen things that you'd use there. It's always the ones that teachers and students find that they can use outside that list that makes it that much more successful. The cafeteria space here we showed earlier in plan, a lot of natural light to the side there, and then on the lower level to the right, you'd see the corridor going right out to the courtyard, and to the right and above, that's the second floor corridor heading to classrooms on the other side of that corridor space. The approval process highlights. This is when we get really exciting. Traffic study is scheduled for September. We obviously can't do a school traffic study when there is new school session. That's kind of cheating. So that'll happen in the next several weeks when everybody gets back from school, or gets back from the holiday, because that'll provide obviously a much more accurate number. So we will let the school know when those things will occur. Sometimes there's wires across the road, sometimes there's cameras. We want to make sure that the school knows, that the day or two that those things are happening. So if parents call and say, why are all these cameras set up on the street? You guys are aware of anything that happens there. In October, we have our next land development submittal. NPDES is a very long acronym for all things environmental reviews from the county. That is the tough one. That is typically the longer of the processes to go through. So we've already engaged with them, and we'll have another submission with them in November. And then
Is that through East Hempfield or through the Pennsylvania DEP?
That's Pennsylvania DEP.
Okay,
And your county conservation
Yeah.
district.
so what kind of things, I mean, we're not an industrial facility, what kind of things would they be looking at?
It's mostly runoff stormwater. They want to make sure that nothing is flooding roads or no sediments ever going to get to a high quality water stream, that kind of stuff.
Good.
So those can take some time. And again, we need, most of the civil plans and things are developed and almost finalized, but when those comments come back, it could be, hey, widen this, shift this a little bit to the left. So there's a few things that we need to make sure are captured when bidding drawings go out. Things can change, and sometimes do after bid drawings go out. But we want as much information for the contractors to place their bids on. That's what we own. When those bids come back, this is what you own. If the county comes back and says, hey, that basin that's 300 cubic feet needs to be 400 cubic feet, you own 300 cubic feet, and we got to go pay somebody the difference in for 4. So those are the things we want to capture as much as possible before everything goes out to bid. So that's the schedule.
Do we think any of these items could delay the project?
Absolutely. So the the NPDES permit is what gets you the building. Those are the things that tend to be out of our hands. So we can bid the project anytime we want. But you can't start construction without a building permit. That building permit comes from the local municipality. So they have to have their reviews. But one of their boxes on the checklist is, do you have your NPDES permit? And if you don't, you really can't even start mobilization. Anything that may disturb more than an acre of land, we're clearly disturbing more than an acre of land here. So sometimes that can delay even putting up a construction fence. So those are things to make sure that we have for the start of construction being June. Even if we don't have all of those permits 100% in February, March, when we go out to bid, we know the work that's involved in all those. So when bids come in, we're finalizing permits. There's really no change, or if there was a change, it's very minor, and that can be adjusted with the lowest bid contractor. We're awarding the construction contracts in April and May. It's part of a board action, getting ready for the building permits to arrive June 1st, so we can start digging as soon as graduation.
And I thought I heard somebody saying something about geotechnical, there may be some additional issues than what we thought initially, or they're nothing to do with water or anything underground, right?
No, it had to do with soil bearing capacity.
Soil bearing, okay.
Yeah. and
Bigger footers and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, they just had the borings done not that long ago. I think that's still all being digested by the structural team. And we're waiting on some info from them.
So we're not gonna need any pumps like we have in the.
No, it wasn't
Pack,
water related. It was, the soil's a little bit softer
Understood.
at design, so they might have to oversize footings and things of that nature.
That's part of that additional contingency you guys put in there.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
If they come back and say things get wild and crazy, and we say, wow, that could cost an extra $1 million, that's a conversation we can have. Then maybe instead of raising the total, maybe we knock $1 million off that market contingency at that time. We'll see as we go.
Question relates to the Performing Arts Center, the library, the Learning Commons area. I went back and looked at number 6, and one of the things that's always a problem when we have those performances is there's only 2 restrooms for people to go and attend, and it sure does look like in slide 6, there's still only 2 restrooms outside.
There's additional restrooms off the Learning Commons where the current Buchanan gym restrooms are.
Okay.
So you
Yes,
can
sir.
see them just above the word library there in purple.
Okay.
So we,
Okay, that's,
we do have a lot of the existing restrooms that are in physical education box on the left has existing restrooms that are right there. Those are some of the closer ones. The ones directly across the existing lobby at the PAC are still there. There are a lot that are being added as part of the new building as well. So right along that main street. So in that view that we showed that said Performing Arts, again, behind you was the gym. Behind you is a row of restrooms. So under the new gym, under the word education and physical education, right above family consumer science, that's a whole row of
Okay.
universal restrooms.
so it's gonna be, where's, so it's gonna be my next question, where's the restrooms for the gym? But you
Yeah.
just answered that.
So the code compliance is going to require a certain amount of toilets. So we're more than exceeding. So last slide is next step. So we're going to continue our bi-weekly meetings with the district. Again, the land development process continues. Now that teachers and staff are back, again, we're going to do that traffic study, but this is another opportunity to meet with some of the teachers, especially some of the specialists as well, music and art, to talk about cabinetry and casework and, hey, we're showing all of this type of cabinets. Do you want cabinets or drawers and things like that to really kind of make sure that we're providing exactly what they need in their spaces. Design development ends in October. We'll have a cost estimate in November, so we'll be able to share those things with you before the holidays. And then we may be looking at some equipment purchasing in the winter. So an example like that at Interboro High School, which we're doing down by the airport. I may have told the story before. We bought a generator 6 months before we went out to bid. We knew we needed a generator. The new building, phase one, was gonna happen right where the existing generator was anyway. It was gonna have to move. And those things are, you know, a year out sometimes. So they purchased that, it came in, it was fine, we relocated it. One of the questions I got from the board was, well, what happens if we buy this and then decide not to do the project? And my response to that was, well, if you buy the generator and have it sitting at your site, you could probably sell it for twice what you paid for it, for somebody that didn't think ahead of this and needs one right away. So there's gonna be a few of those things that we may be looking at that are just long lead items that we need sooner than being able to order them in May. If we can order them in December, that's something that we may consider and propose.
Yeah, mostly related to, because we're severing the pack, mostly related to switch gear, generator, stuff we need to be able to get the pack back up online immediately. And
So-
these things do take 6 months to a year to get.
So you're purchasing that would be essentially in theory here in June or July, hopefully. And then the installer then is installing owner supplied equipment. So the electrical contractor, the mechanical contractor is still responsible for putting that in, for work, for warranty. But that's equipment that you are providing to them. And essentially was just pre-ordered, to try to cut, 6, 7, 8 months off the procurement time.
By
So-
doing that, oh, I'm sorry.
So in addition to helping with lead time, you help maybe reduce the price, because I assume the price is what you buy it at, or is it when it's delivered?
The last couple we've done, in fact, I would say every school district just about that we've done in the past year, they've pre-purchased, and we've helped put together RFPs so that they can get competitive bids from manufacturers. How that compares with the contractors doing it, I don't know. I don't know that you get a competitive price on the
But
equipment.
what I was saying is, if you buy it early, you're doing it because of timing, but you also may save some money because of inflation on those
Oh,
piece of
With
equipment.
the way electrical's been going the past year, definitely.
So it's a good
very
fit from that
positive.
standpoint.
Yeah.
One thing to point out on that schedule, we're talking about another community town hall in November. We did do one in the spring when we were kind of kicking off the project. That's another good time to maybe have, invite a lot of people in for the pack. I don't think we did it last time. That works pretty well. One thing that you're required by the state to do is what's called Act 34. So there's a law back in the 70s that says you have to let the public know that you're building a school. That's before social media, that's before simulcasting meetings. So we're doing way better than that, as we would in most projects, to go to the community multiple times, coming to the board multiple times. We've seen it in your local newspaper several times. So we've done that, and we're proposing to do that again in the town hall. Those are more relaxed nights because the Act 34 hearing is a hearing. It is a legal proceeding. It's run by your solicitor. There's a stenographer there taking notes and pressing buttons. It's not really meant to be a conversation. So that's why we always kind of advocate for nights like tonight, where you guys can ask us questions, the community can ask questions in November. That would most likely happen in, the Act 34 hearing would happen in January. So there would be some board action, including that in December. You would advertise the hearing. So what that means is essentially 20 days before the hearing, we put an advertisement out in local newspaper. We provide some books if anybody's interested in hearing about some items of the project. Hey, come to the school district. There's a book there with all this information. By the way, there's a hearing January 15th. Then the hearing is open to the public. It's not a board meeting, but you all are members of the public. You're certainly more than welcome. Like I said, it's basically oftentimes the superintendent will say, here's why we need the project. Scott or I will give a brief example of, or brief review of what the project is. The big piece is financial. What does this mean to our taxes? How are we borrowing money for that? So that's one of the things, Mrs. Hall, that you and I will be diving into now that right after the holiday. So something for you to look forward to. And that's part of that hearing. But like I said, it is a night of a legal proceeding, so having a little bit more of a softer night like that community town hall in November is kind of a nice idea. But that's really the kind of last official act before going out to bid. Bidding takes about 6 weeks. There's usually 2 weeks after that of time to coordinate with the lowest bidder, making sure all those things are together. And so you're probably looking at, let's say, a nice night in April sometime where we bring $188 million project to you guys and say, would you like to build this or not? But that's something to understand as well. So that's March, April-ish of next year is, call that the big night, when all of this talking comes down to, okay, school board members, would you like to spend $188 million on a school construction project? So just to understand the next steps and kind of what the next 6 months looks like.
Mr. Kelly, this is news to me, and I actually just looked up some stuff about Act 34, and it does appear that it's a board hearing. Like, but we would need to be here, at least according to the statute.
It's not, I can reread that, but again, you're more than welcome to participate, you're more than welcome to speak. Oftentimes, we've had board members speak as community members. You come up, you state where you live, are you a community member, what your name? Say, I'm in favor of the project, this is why, or I'm against, or here's my concerns. So as you are a member of the public that night, it doesn't need to be a formal board meeting. It does need to be advertised, just like if you were gonna have a special board meeting on Thursday, which isn't usually scheduled, you have to advertise that a certain amount of time ahead of time.
Yeah.
But it's more of a legal proceeding hearing than it is a board meeting. We would, most likely, we would have that we could have that in the pack. We don't need to have the board assembled in a dais. We would, again, be part of the public.
Just to, and I don't know if this clarify or not, what Mike's talking about is the Act 34 hearing. The board will vote on the Act 34, the total.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's a separate night.
So the board action is in this schedule in December. So we would say you're advertising the project, which, to John's point, advertises the cost. A little confusion, and again, I can go on for another hour and a half about Act 34. Act 34, you approved two numbers. The 211.3, which is total project, and then there will be a number significantly less than 188 million. Act 34 only dictates the cost of the building, of new construction, not renovation, not site, not utility work, just the cost of what the new construction. So that number may be 110, let's just say. So people might go, 110, I thought it was much more than that. Or what happens sometimes, it's 110, on bid day it comes in at 180, and they go, whoa, it's way over. The Act 34 number is only looking at the new building construction, not site, not anything we're doing in UK. So a little bit of a preview of Act 34.
Mike, I have a question for you, kind of backing up a couple paragraphs ago on the pre-purchase of equipment. And Charles started asking, and I wasn't sure if we were going to ask the same question, but I think mine is slightly different. By pre-purchasing the equipment and then it's owner supplied, do contractors typically do a markup on that? So we would be saving the markup as well as the savings of an early purchase. Okay.
To that point, you might think, well, geez, let's do that a little bit more.
Right.
There is a little bit of a risk there, because if they open the box and it doesn't work, they go, hey, that's not ours.
Yeah.
Well, look, in cases like this, when it's HVAC equipment and things like that, to John's point, in Interborough, we had to get rid of that generator. Here, step one is plugging back in the pack. That's the time critical first step. That's what we would be pre-purchasing.
Yeah.
Because that third line coming out of the power plant goes there, and that's right where the building wants to go. So we want to cut that line soon.
Yeah.
So if that gets here, we can have that installed. So say, this time next year, the pack is being heated and cooled by a new unit, and then we can cut the umbilical cord that they have now. But if we waited until you all awarded the contractors in April, maybe it's May till they start buying things, and now we just push that another 6 months, that could delay construction date.
I've got go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
All right, I'll be quick. I do have a handful of questions, and my apologies to anyone here or listening in or whatever. We've touched on some of these things tonight. We've touched on some of these things in the past, but as far as I'm concerned, we get one shot to make sure we're clear as a bell, right? So, number one, we need some more tips that you just gave on like get the generator now, sell it for double the cost as we are a couple steps away from our finance meeting. Some more tips like that would be good, Mr. Kelly. So that's first. We talk about the pack and we go backwards. We're talking about the pack. What are we doing inside the pack? The actual inside the Performing Arts Center. What are we doing there? Because I don't remember seeing much on that. We talked about classrooms, hallways, et cetera. But
So that space is in really good shape. So
Yeah.
fortunately, we don't have to do too much. We are sprinkling the entire building. So right now, the building does not have fire suppression, sprinkler heads that come out of the ceiling. So that is being included in that space as well. There is some house lighting and some ADA compliance things. If you want to
Yeah,
touch on
all existing lighting is fluorescent or incandescent.
House.
It's gonna get new LED lighting for house lighting. There's currently no way for a wheelchair to get onto the stage from the auditorium floor.
Right.
So there'll be a wheelchair lift that'll be added. The carpet in the VCT in the main auditorium is kind of worn. We're gonna replace that. And then obviously, because of the umbilical cord being cut, we're gonna have a new heating and cooling system.
The really expensive stuff of the pack remains. The sound system, the theatrical lighting, the seating and stuff like that, because it's in very good shape. So again, it may be an example of somebody walking in and going, what did we do here? Well, not much. I mean, the carpet and the flooring is a big step. Code compliance, fire safety, things like that are all important. But it's not like suddenly it's gonna have, a brand new everything else inside.
Okay. All right, cool. Thank you. Next question is, in the spirit of things changing, I know we talked about this at a past meeting. What can we expect in terms of overages from a budget standpoint? I know that you guys shoot for a certain percentage. What is your typical in other projects, and really what are the main factors that drive that number in the northern direction?
Unforeseen conditions. So that construction contingency part is unforeseen conditions. It's opening up a wall and finding an issue. It's opening up a ceiling and finding there's a serious issue there. I know we are replacing the roof at Buchanan, so we opened up the roof and there was an issue. We have money in there to do the roof. If I knew the answers to all that, there wouldn't be unforeseen conditions. But
In addition to that, I would just add, in addition to that construction contingency, the current estimate has $1 million in quantity allowances, which is again to be used to control the cost per unit, whether it's a cubic yard of dirt or whatever. And then that can be used as well for unforeseens, because that is really where things can get out of control.
Okay.
Like you already, voted to spend the money and do the job, and now costs start to really spiral out of control.
the point to share with you on that is we're budgeting for all of those things, and every dollar that when that occurs is shared with the board. So there's nothing that you don't see. We'll talk about some pre-authorization things that maybe Mrs. James is allowed to make because we need to keep things going. But everything, month to month, anything that's changed comes to you guys, and you could read through that, and we can take those questions. Yeah, this was something that was missed. This was an unforeseen condition. This was a change that everybody kind of agreed was a value added, so we decided to do that. Those are all things that you will see.
All right. In terms of what your track record is on that end, what are we looking at? 1%, 2%,
Yeah, I
11%?
think that's pretty much what everybody says is 1%. Now, it depends on the size and the messiness of the project. BAME, which is the one I showed you there, I mean, that was real messy. There was a whole bunch of stuff that they found along the way, but that board chose to spend some of that contingency at the end because it had already been budgeted. So we added some things into the job at the end of that. So they chose to utilize a lot of that contingency. A lot of times school districts say, hey, great, that $3 million we should budget it, but we don't want to use all of it.
Mhm.
Okay. So the goal is, certainly not to use any of it, but, you'll use a third, if not half, just by, again, things that we're going to find in the ground, things that we're going to find in Buchanan, and hopefully it's less than that, but again, all of those things will be shared with.
I think for
So-
Fidavia, I would say, like in the past year, pretty much within about 1% or 2, usually over, sometimes closer. We've had one bust in the last 3 years, but it was significant. It does happen when signals cross and, mathematical errors were made on the sheet in that point. But like we just had a high school bid opening. Our estimate was 106.8, and when it was all said and done, it was like 106.1. So it actually was, and we have 2 more high school renovation addition projects that will be opening before this one. So that's a great opportunity for us to recrunch all the numbers. And if we have to come and say, guess what, it's not been heading in a good direction and we don't have great news, but we track that every time, every single bid opening, we track to try and keep up with the fluctuations.
All right, perfect.
So
Appreciate
some
that.
of this is going to be impacted by the general contractor and the main contractors and how well detailed the bidding documents, that there's no confusion and that results in change orders. So I guess those documents are created by you guys, so have you done pretty well with that's a big deal because that can cause a lot of additional money. KCBA and with Fidavia overlooking.
Yeah, we have a separate team of that does constructability. It's mostly guys in the field that have been doing this a really long time and managing projects. So they kind of know what to look for. So before it goes out to bid, even sometimes while it's out to bid, they're still looking at it for things that could be caught. But they're looking through the lens of what has burned me before, a detail missing, an error, something like that. So we do that as well on top of that.
So you're going to be part of that whole process.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I just wanted
No,
to add
all
that.
good. 2 last things, and I know these are both things that Dr. Brossman continues to stay tight to close with. So I'll ask all of you. Number 1 is in the spirit of disruption, right? So you talked about the hallway with the, that was open and it was safe. That's great. I mean, I have I drop off my daughter in the morning, and if you've been through our campus at like 7:35, 7:45 in the morning, it's kind of a mess. Today, can you walk us through how to minimize disruptions? Because let's be honest, if it's, and right, I mean, it's nuts out there, right? And I know this is something you're near and dear to. You stay close to Dr. Brossman, but I can't even imagine what this is going to look like when school and events and activities have to go on for the better part of a half a decade. Can you walk us through that?
I mean, I can, I'm
It's a
part
mess.
of it anyways, because what Fidavia, one of the things we really do is that as we get a little closer, we'll do a site logistics plan. This is where the trailers are going to go. This is where the contractors are coming and going. This is when they're going to park. Bill and the rest of the staff are going to say, hey, can we have no deliveries between, drop off, pick up and drop off and all that? We can put all that stuff in the documents. It will be messy. It will be an inconvenience, but we do take many steps to try and minimize it and keep the workers separate from the kids, not only physically, but parking, staging areas, keep everything separate.
So to your point, in June, the fences are going to go up and we're going to lose access to the Buchanan Gym entrance. We're going to lose access to the preschool circle. We're going to lose access to the Buchanan Gym PAC parking lot area. So that all gets fenced off and we lose that, which is why phasing wise, one of the early things we're asking to be done is the band parking lot so that we're able to pick up the parking that we're going to lose there. So hopefully from a parking standpoint for students and staff, we're not pushing people too much further away. You're right, we're going to lose that drop-off circle in the back, which is going to force some more drop-off out front. So that's just in terms of traffic flow. And then in terms of inside the building, I mean, aside from some of those changes, the first 2 years, there shouldn't be a whole lot of impact to the students because the first 2 years they're building all the new and it's not intruding on what we currently have. They'll be working on the stuff that we currently have in the summer. So, I imagine right there in August when we get started back up, things will be dirty and, to some of those things put back together. I'm not sure how much of, they can talk about how much of, the way it's phased, I don't think we're gonna have too much of that open ceiling pieces when kids, right, Scott's shaking his head. That was the brilliance of the way that you guys, the option you selected, so we can always have 2 of our 3 sections of high school together. So the kids shouldn't be around the construction in the hallways that much. It will be on the site. So I think you hit the nail on the head with the traffic in the morning and the drop-offs. And yeah, so we're gonna have 2 basketball seasons where, we're gonna have to bring people in probably through the Buchanan entrance and either walk them around FCS or take them right through the weight room to get to the gym. Those are some logistics we haven't worked out, but we do know that they're coming. Like we can't work. Those are unavoidable. So we are going to rely on their expertise a good bit. They have more experience with this, and we have some ideas, and we are going to need people to be patient and offer some grace, and we'll get through it together.
It's a community town hall.
We see districts like, and I could see this happening here, just because of like when the Buchanan renovation is getting done, you may have a student who has a class in the back corner of the new addition, and then the next period in Franklin. Like we've had districts had to kind of reevaluate and say, okay, because of the construction and our permanent routes aren't done yet, maybe we have to give a few extra minutes between the bell, that sort of thing.
Got it.
Yeah.
You said it perfectly when you said minimize disruption, because
Yes.
there's going to be disruption.
I don't expect elimination of it.
All right, but sharing information is important too. We opened up Pleasant Valley High School yesterday. They're starting first of 3 years of construction. And in this first phase, the front's the back, the left is the right, like everything changed, but all summer long, they were sending out drawings and maps that we had created that said, hey, when you come in now, instead of going right, you're going to the back. So this whole area is where faculty and students go, or this is where the buses are coming in. So there was a lot of communication throughout the summer to parents and students. And then on day one, they had a lot of people outside pointing. And we talked to them yesterday and they said, yeah, it went great. Everybody kind of knew where they needed to go. And we provided them the graphics and the explanation to then provide the public so that on day one, they knew what was coming.
Thank you. Appreciate you talking us through that. Last thing is this, and really this is just me thinking out loud, and I started wondering this as you were pointing out, like the linear lighting that you showed in the hallway, right, in the classrooms, right? My question to you is that when I think about the lighting, HVAC systems, the technology infrastructure, all of the stuff that is behind the walls and that does make things go, can you walk us through your process or what you look at from an efficiency effectiveness trade-off standpoint, right? So we want the very best, but we don't have $2.4 billion to go get the very, very best and have that, right? And have the, like, we all want the Bentley, but we can't afford the Bentley. So do you then get like a really, really like tricked out Chevy? You know what I'm saying? Like there's an efficiency effectiveness trade-off that has to be balanced. Can you walk us through how you choose that so that we have the very best technology that might not be obsolete before this thing's done, but isn't going to break the bank?
Yeah, several months ago, we did a study with the mechanical system, and we kind of did the good, better, best. And one system is putting these big giant air handling units in each room, and they just kind of sit in the corner and they chug along, and they're not great. They're a little noisy, but it's not as much money up front as the system, the middle ground system, which, spoiler alert, was what we're looking at. That does things much more efficiently. It's a lot quieter. So the indoor air quality is temperature and moisture, but it's also sound.
Yep.
So there was a lot of value to that. So
I actually have loudness written down. Yeah.
right. So a lot of that was working with a smaller committee of board members to say, all right, where do we want? Where do we want to be? And so, and then there's the Cadillac versions of things that was just a lot of money that didn't really give us a lot of value. So we've kind of already done that in the mechanical side. Plumbing, a lot of that is code compliance. A lot of it's mostly kind of what we have to do and fire suppression certainly. And then electric, we're gonna be doing so much stuff in the ceiling that the fixtures are old. So basically for the cost of taking down an old fluorescent fixture and putting it back up, you just buy a new LED fixture. They're not that expensive anymore. And they're using substantially less electricity to run. The biggest consumption of energy in any building is lighting. Look where we are in it. So if we can reduce that, that reduces your operational costs and reduces the energy consumption. They're also dimmable, which helps with, sometimes we're in rooms where children may have sensory issues. You want to kind of just get the lighting down a little bit. Sometimes we even kind of preset the light where you hit it on and it goes to 70%. You have to secretly hit it twice to get it to go to 100%. So there's a little bit of built-in things that are free with LEDs that would cost extra drivers if it was fluorescent. So we've made those assumptions based on what we see in the industry and what we've done with other groups, but also especially when it came to the mechanical system with the help of some of the board members in that meeting we had a couple of months ago about that good, better, best when it came to the mechanical system.
I appreciate the discussion. For me, it's just, I think about, my youngest is in first grade. So when he's, when the board of the future that exists when he's in high school, are they going to have to go hire 4.5 more maintenance people because we saved a few bucks on something, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to make sure that we're covering all bases and we're thinking about that the right way. And clearly, I'm sure you do. I just don't know what that looks
Yeah,
like. So.
and that's some of the issues as well. There may be less expensive systems that are far more maintenance heavy.
Yeah, right.
Switching out filters every month. It's like,
That's
all right,
exactly
we're gonna have to hire a team of filter changers.
Right.
So the system, we're looking at a certain level of quality, certainly in the new building, but also in Buchanan. That's there for the long term. That's money well spent, but not too much money. Also thinking long-term life cycle as well as utility costs, things like that.
Very good. Awesome. Appreciate the discussion. Thank you. Mr. Wogan, sorry about that.
I'm going to go back to slide 39. The initial construction cost was 179.3 million and it went to the 183.3 million, which is a $4 million increase. My question is, what made up that $4 million? I also thought I understood hearing in the beginning that the square footage went up.
It went down from the initial idea.
And then it went up from 282 to 286.
It actually, when I presented that real high estimate,
Yeah.
we were at 320. That was
Right.
after everybody's wish list got thrown in the pile.
Correct. I understand that. It came down to the 282. What drove that square footage back up? And what drove the $4 million increase to the construction cost, which is the current estimate at the 183.3?
Some of that is the market, but some of that is covered in the margin contingency. Some of that is some things that we put back into Buchanan. There were a few rooms that were selected to be, you saw the one that went from 660 to 850. We're not doing as many of those, but we took them all, we put them all in, then we took them all out, and we came back with kind of a middle ground. There's some restroom facilities at the end of the hallways, the existing restrooms that are being completely redone. So there's some things there that were added in Buchanan. You would be able to say as well.
I can think of a few off the top of my head. Like, yeah, from the beginning, like Mike and I kind of agreed on $400 a square foot. And while it doesn't sound huge, like as we saw electrical going up and up and up on maybe a few revisions ago, I bumped it to 403. You think $3 isn't much, but all of a sudden it's $900,000. So there's some of that happening, Justin, where some of those numbers are fluctuating to try and keep up with the market so that what we bring here is realistic based on current market as best we can.
So from the last discussion we had in the last meeting, that $4 million increase to that current estimate from the initial estimate did not come from increased space from some of the discussions we had. For example, maybe I'll help you a little bit. We discussed a break room. That was still out there outstanding. What happened with that? Did that contribute to the $4 million? Is that in there or is it out?
The faculty dining room.
Correct.
Is in currently. One of the big, that had a very small space contributing factor. A larger contributing factor was the athletic storage room that we presented earlier. That's 2,000 square feet. If you do that at 403, that's $800,000. So that's a significant chunk of that money.
So I don't,
Were there any other increases in space in the new building that would have contributed to that from our initial discussions?
no, we've been reducing the size of space. And we talked earlier about taking 5 classrooms and making it 2. Everything has been reducing versus adding.
So one of the things I think maybe where you're headed here is that we have made the building more constructible, efficient. So we took, as Mike had previously mentioned, that there were some long extension things happening on the right-hand eastern side of the building. We've compressed that, which meant taking it 1-story to 2-story, which we feel that if you're already building the foundation on a 1-story, putting 1 floor above that would be more efficient. So we've been tucking and pulling and tweaking to get all that to be the most efficiently constructible building. That may have also increased by another 1,000 square feet by doing that.
And am I correct in saying, and I think I know where Mr. Walkermoot is going on this. The cost, we don't allocate cost at this point to specific decisions within the building. Rather, it's just the number of square feet total times the assumed cost. So like an athletic room, it's a big empty room, but that really doesn't cost us $800,000. But we're just saying it's 200 times 400.
We're tracking it the way that,
Right.
the only way we can track
Yeah,
it.
because that's all we have to go on, and
Right.
you have to use that average throughout the building.
Right.
Because obviously, a bathroom, a kitchen costs way more than
Than an
$400
empty
square
storage
foot.
room.
And
Yeah.
an athletic storage costs significantly less, or a standard classroom.
Right.
So those are the averages that we're tracking.
Yeah.
So we do use that same average for all types at this stage.
Right, if we add an athletic storage room and take out a science lab, the real cost of that is probably, the cost difference is several million. But the assumed cost might be 0 if they're the same number of square feet. Right?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
The reason I asked this isn't to be difficult, but we really had said this project should be 211 million, and we're over 300,000 over that already. Going into this, where we're at the ceiling of this project, knowing that we've put some money in for market contingencies and construction contingencies, and I trust you guys with those numbers. I don't think they're fuzzy numbers, but I have to admit, Mr. Maris's question earlier was one that originally I was waiting to see where we went with that. Did we just tweak the numbers, and are we just going to end up coming in 4 or 5 million over where we should be? But I don't believe that's the case at all. I'm going to be blunt and just ask the question. It's been something I've been concerned about. Not concerned about, it's a wrong word, but just a little curious about where did we land with the square footage of the learning commons? From where we started, it was higher, then we came down to 2,200 or 2,300 square feet. And does that include the outside area that we talked about as common space in the square footage number that you're going to give me?
Yeah, so the space that's out, and that's the pretty picture image somewhere. So you're talking, that was the plan version of it. That. So this space here is what we would consider to be the commons. That's that large space that's out front. We talked about that being multi-use and things like that. That's about 2,500. 2,100 square feet. Then the enclosed space beyond that is that library/media center, but that includes a lot of different things. So within that is art library, kind of the old school books. There's a huge area that's more designed like a little bit of a cyber cafe for students to sit with laptops. There's a full-size classroom in the back. There's offices, storage, there's a conference room. So that total space is around 4,000 square feet, but it gets chopped up into several 800 and 900 square foot rooms. If you think about I think we had that at a list someplace where the traditional library part was about 1,400 square feet, and the classroom's another 1,000, and then the media center portion of that, which is kind of the cafeteria or the cafe space, was another 1,000. there's 700 square feet with the offices and the conference room. So we had shown that before, and you had made that comment, I think, a meeting or two ago, because we wrote, like, library, 4,200 square feet, we're like, 4,200, well, all right, it's chopped up into a lot of additional functions. It's not just one giant room of books. So
As long as it's a versatile space and doesn't become expensive storage,
Right.
I don't have a problem with the space being larger. It's more my concern about the return on investment at 403, and I was running it at 400 and 450 a square foot, both directions. It's expensive when you start to take a 4,200 square foot area and start to run the numbers at 403, I guess is our real number at the moment. So it needs to be usable. If it's sitting empty, I'm going to be very disappointed that we've wasted $1 million+ on an area that sits and collects dust.
I agree. I think in our experience, these types of spaces are utilized throughout the day. So we're looking at that to make sure that it's as functional as possible.
Well, I think additionally, this is all infill. Like you have to finish this space to connect all the parts of the building.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, this is,
geometry wise, yes. it's a
you have to
shape,
do
but it
something
is.
here.
To,
Yeah.
to your point, we want to make sure that it's functional.
Functional,
as
right,
well.
right,
We
right.
could
Yeah.
chop that thing into 20 different, but
Yeah.
we want to, whatever it's, when you're done chopping, whatever's left is we want to make sure is as functional as possible. So we do have a large space like this. That's kind of that open commons where we talked about how
Which we
it's,
need.
a lobby for 15 different things.
Yeah, yeah.
So inside those walls as well, we want to make sure that it's functional.
Just a stupid question. How big do you think this room is square footage? If you had to guess, I mean, you guys see rooms every 78 times a day.
For ceiling,
I know, I'm looking for floor.
Not
carpet
volume,
tile,
square footage.
The way we normally.
I would guess around, I think it's over 2,000.
I was just gonna say.
This room?
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my point. So
2,500.
Does anyone here have a 3-foot stride? You can just base it off real quick and we can do some math.
I'm looking at like the commons area.
No, they said,
2,100.
you said that whole area was,
This is bigger than the commons area for 2,000 kids. Commons area is a little less than this.
Commons area you said was 2,200, right? So it's a little bit bigger than this or about the
But
same.
About the same.
They call it the same, but it's
Okay.
also, you come in here and you sit in a room. If we had a hallway on both sides, which this does,
Yeah.
it reduces the functional space of all of that as well. So this it's a big open space, but it's also the intersection of like 4 different hallways.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna have a giant meeting with.
No, I get it. I'm just trying to picture, it's fine. I'm trying to wrap my head around, to your point, the intersection of all that happening in a space this size with that many people. It just seems small to me. I'm sorry, I don't know, maybe I'm nuts. It's gonna get jam packed in there like that.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. I don't know.
It'll be much better than what we have, and I think it makes sense. I don't have any issue with that space that you're looking at on that picture. I think, we've talked about that ad nauseum with the pack and how tight that is. This makes a lot of sense to me, and it looks like it's usable during the school day too, for various things.
Mike did talk about alternates earlier on, and that's something we're gonna have to talk about. We're gonna need some things that can be pulled out in case bid day goes a little awry. Some of the wants that maybe we can have as alternate deducts to pull out, like maybe some of these last minute additions, or, we can put some together, the whole team, and present them.
Yeah, and I think I'm glad you're doing that because that's extremely important when we're at the ceiling plus
Right.
of where, the direction the board had given around what we could afford. And we really didn't pad that number a lot. That really was where we could be and be okay. One last quick question related to everything I asked. So we've made some changes. Have you reduced any of the quality of the materials through any of this, or you haven't been to that level yet? Like, in other words, we talked about Traz floors versus maybe a lower quality floor that would have to be replaced, to Mr. Wagner's point earlier. Have we gotten that level of detail yet? And does this include a higher quality floor, for example?
Yeah, I think we're not reducing quality of materials really anywhere. Now, there will be, as an alternate, flooring. Some of that is because terrazzo is really expensive. But it's also, we worked with a school district, said, I don't care, we are putting terrazzo everywhere. We said, great, we're still gonna bid the alternative, because if the terrazzo company knows they're the only option, then they may raise their price a little bit. So in spaces like this, and even maybe in some of the main, Main Street corridor, we may show that as terrazzo, and we may show an alternate then for a quartz tile, which is a 2x2 floor tile, which can still last a long time. It's not gonna last 100 years like terrazzo. That would really be the only material decrease, if you will, in durability that we might suggest. Everything else is still, tiles on walls, corner protections, things like that, to make sure that, we're not, on day one, it looks great, and on day two, it looks like it got beat up.
But just to help you with the flexibility on bid day is that if you have these alternates with finishes, it allows you to make some decisions to lower the cost if needed. And that's one of the easiest ways to do that with doing alternates, is changing the materials.
So is that the alternative bidding, or is that even an addition of the bidding?
Yeah, I think it would be part of that. So it's, if we think of the terrazzo floor being, in some locations, that big main cross section, this area here, this would be great as terrazzo, but we could show this as terrazzo and then have a deduct alternate that says, okay, how much would it cost if I took that out and went to tile? Terrazzo could be, in a project that this big, could be $1 million if we had terrazzo everywhere. So that we may, say, hey, the first floor we're gonna have is one deduct, the second floor is another deduct.
Even splitting it up.
And that gives you some options. Again, that is a durability conversation. The floor tile is great. That'll last a long time, but nothing lasts longer than terrazzo. It's just shockingly expensive in recent projects. So it's a good example of one that we would definitely want to include as an alternate.
I think our Worcetown building, we actually had a problem with terrazzo, but I think Worcetown building, there was something way they installed it. But is terrazzo kind of the standard and longest lasting?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
by far the longest lasting and twice as expensive as everything else.
I truly think that's an area we shouldn't skimp on. And again, I'm throwing my personal opinion into that just from being part of other projects in school districts. Kids are hard on floors. And at the end of the day, the last thing you want to do is disrupt everything that's happening or have to do that over summer. It gets messy for a lot of reasons when you have to start to replace flooring. And I'd rather see us find that $1 million somewhere else, to be honest.
We just as an example though, we had another high school recently that changed to stained concrete in a lot of their hallways, just as durable, half the cost, turned out spectacular. I mean, there are options. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not an option I'd heard of, but I'd be open to.
What was it
something like
again?
that.
They use a stain, a colored concrete. So it's literally like, imagine like a Home Depot or a Walmart floor, but with a nice color to it. And it was half the cost of the terrazzo. So there are choices. Not many if you want that incredible durability, but there's a few.
Mr. Walkman, if you've been to any, like, some of the newer places in Vegas, Atlantic City, some of the big convention centers, they have a lot of stained concrete and it looks stunning. I mean, it looks stunning, and as the gentleman said, it's far, far cheaper than marble or terrazzo and is every bit as durable.
Fair enough.
I have two questions. One about the flooring and concrete. Having worked retail, having been a teacher, and standing on concrete, I don't know what the
It's
differential is like.
just as hard of a material as terrazzo, if that's where you're
Okay.
headed. I mean,
Yeah.
We would only do it in the
It
corridors.
would only be in the hallways. the
Not
hallways,
very-
Yeah.
Any of us who had to stand in those situations
Yeah.
takes its
Yeah,
toll.
there'll be a lot of different types of flooring products.
Okay.
Like you may have epoxy flooring in some
Mhm.
of those labs. We may have ceramic tile or something like that in the bathroom or a kitchen. So there's a lot of different options to look at, but ultimately for us, the conversation always comes down to durability.
Right.
You know that things are gonna get spilled on, and you wouldn't put carpet in the cafeteria.
Hope
Because you know
not.
that's gonna get spilled on. That would be a bad choice. So, that's the kind of things we're looking at and considering.
my real question that I had was, I haven't heard anything about the art. I saw it up there. I didn't see how it was divided up in the room, different rooms. We've talked about the science the science rooms. We
So
talked
the,
about music,
the,
Up one.
up one. I think
right,
it's,
so this is the lower level.
right.
This is where you come in, you've got the common space that we were just talking about, the cafeteria. Family consumer science is on that lower level of the courtyard. One floor above them is where the art students are. So they have a lot of natural light looking down into that courtyard space. They have a lot of advantages being right there with a ton of natural light. They just happen to be one floor above family consumer science.
So how many classrooms?
We're
is there?
replicating the 4 art classrooms we currently have. So 2 studio type classrooms, a ceramics classroom, and then the fine metals and 3D art classroom.
And those classrooms will be bigger what we currently have?
They are bigger than what we currently have with good storage. And then
They have a lot more.
directly, you see where it says arts and that corner off the gym, right? Just
Mhm.
above that, then that's designed as our new gallery space
Mhm.
for the arts.
Yeah, we'll be doing some more renderings of that area, but actually, we've been in our office kind of commenting about the fact that that's likely going to be called the Avenue of the Arts, because that's right on the main corridor going east-west. It's right off that main intersection. And so I think we're celebrating the arts. And that rather excites me. So I think you can imagine on that right-hand side where those rooms are, there'll be lots of display cases with the student work. And then, as Dr. Bressman just said, that there'll be an art gallery where student work can be put. And you can, if you're going to the basketball game, you might go there before or after at halftime and go look at the student work.
Now, this is sort of well, it's a personal question because my daughter's a ceramic artist. How many wheels are there? How many kilns are there? That takes a lot of space, more space than some of these other art rooms. And I remember those gorgeous, beautiful rooms that we saw at the high school that we visited. And like how many,
So we're replicating the number of kilns we currently have.
which is
And-
2?
Yep. And then we are adding more wheels than we currently have. I
And
believe
and currently you have 5?
the number of wheels,
Mhm.
it's more than 5, but I think that they're depicting 20.
Or 20.
At one point, there were like 6 wheels, but they were being cannibalized and I don't know.
Yeah.
if
Nope.
It kind of, so 20 wheels. Okay, that's more than another high school in the area. So, and plenty of sink space and air drying and all of that.
Yep. And
We-
each art teacher for each of these spaces has been involved in the design.
Good.
So the ceramics teacher was involved, the 3D art teacher was involved, the painting, like for those specialized classrooms, we got the teacher in that is the expert in that.
For
area.
FCS
Yep.
and the music. Now, the other question I had, on the first floor where the garages are and docks and things like that where they
Tech
can
ed
bring
on the right?
things in. The technology and engineering education. And I don't know what we do usually in the performing arts for scenery, if it's all drop or if it's built. But that was one thing in one of the schools we went, that the school, for the scenery that was used for the art, I'm sorry, for performances, was actually done in one of those rooms where building took place.
So where it says music and performing arts, right where that P is, that's our PAC set construction. That's like a whole tech ed room back there. Currently, that'll stay because it has its own loading dock for loading building materials and painting. And so they have a whole,
It's
Set.
actually really a nice space for building scenery.
Yeah.
It's something that you all have as an advantage existing.
Good. It just triggered when I saw that and you were talking about bringing in stuff and
Yeah.
building a room or a house in there, a large structure.
And as far as set design goes, the black box theater there dimensionally, you can fit the stage of the Performing Arts Center in. So when they are rehearsing or whatever, you can mimic the stage in the pack in the black box, which you can't do currently with Hackman.
And there's enough storage room for? There's enough storage room for all of that. And hopefully more storage room than it currently has for costumes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the costume storage goes on the second floor, and all of those music rooms are considerably larger than they are now.
All of you know I'm a big fan. of
We
that,
do.
so. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other questions? All right. Thank you very much for your time. And
Very helpful.
we'll go ahead and move to finance. I don't think there's a lot of finance, so I don't think we need to break.
No, and you can head out if you want, but we're gonna move right into finance, and we just have contracts to review. There are a number of contracts at the top that you will see are for review today and approval at our next September meeting, and then you'll also see some contracts tonight under the action items. So when you look at the contract spreadsheet, under finance, number 4A, and then we'll have 5A, which is the approval. Those spreadsheets are the same. You'll just see one's for review, one's for approval.
Are you looking for a motion, Mr. Waterman?
Not yet. I think we want to just go through the contracts for review first and see if there's any questions, and then we'll move into the financial action item. Any questions under the first group of contracts for review tonight, approval in September? Yes. I would just like just a quick update, and I'm hoping you can provide this, Dr. Dandridge, on a couple of the new contracts. I don't need anything on personally for Market Street. We've talked about that. We know that's, a new but continued. But especially under like talking points, for example, can you explain what that is and why we have that as a new contract there?
Talking Points is we've used that for several years. It is a translation software that our ELD teachers use with our families who don't speak English. So it gives them the ability to communicate back and forth. We only have contract for our ELD students and their families and the ELD teachers to use there. But they have used it for a couple of years. It should be a renewal.
Yeah, that should
And-
be a renewal.
I'm sorry?
That should be a renewal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's listed as new.
Yeah, it does say new on here, and I think, my understanding was, and I did ask a question about this, it used to be an IU contract for the benefit of the board.
Not Talking
No,
Points.
different one?
Yeah, different
Oh,
one. The
geez.
ProQuest,
Okay.
which is later.
All right, I have them confused.
Yeah.
But it is not technically a new contract, correct?
It is not. It should
Okay.
be, yeah, I don't know why it was marked that way. It should be written.
Yeah,
Probably.
okay. Any questions about those? If not, we're gonna move to the action item that we have, which is the approval of the other contracts that are listed below there, which, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. And the ProQuest is the one that I made the mistake on. That is the one that we had through the IU.
Yeah.
That is technically listed as a new contract because it is new, but it's not really new.
Correct. So they budgeted for it this year. In the past, it was part of our contract with the IU, one of the databases that they provided. Culturegrams is a product that our social studies teachers use, a database that they use in the classroom fairly heavily, have for a number of years. But due to the IU renewing some of their databases, it was not included in their package this year. So we budgeted and took over that cost and moved it into our library budget instead of the fees that we were paying through the IU.
Any questions about the contracts up for approval tonight? All right, I need a motion to approve those contracts in a second.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Richard? You still online? Favor? Okay. I didn't do the
Do we
count,
have
but-
five?
It's eight.
That was
It's
We,
eight.
we
seven.
do, we
I'm
have
sorry,
7. We have 7.
7.
So 7-0. that motion passes. So I just need a motion to adjourn in a second.
Motion.
I'll second that.
Motion, second by Mr. Wagner. All in favor? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.